Seashore. Written by Lucy Beckett Bauman. Designed by Caroline Spatz. Illustrations by Patrizia Doneira. There's a sandy beach with a crab. Beside the sea. The seashore is where the land meets the sea. There are different types of seashore all over the world. This is a sandy beach. Sand is made from tiny pieces of broken shell and rock. Turning tides. When the seashore is covered in water, it is called high tide. When the shore is bare, it is called low tide. High tide and low tide each happen twice a day. Some plants and animals live high up on the beach. They can survive both in and out of the water. So here's the high tide. These mussels are underwater. And here's the low tide. Those mussels are in the air. At low tide, most of the shore is uncovered. Some parts are always underwater. Rocky pools. At low tide, pools of water are sometimes left between rocks. The pools are full of life. Crabs, mussels, and little fish live in them. And so there's a sea star as well, and this bird is called an oyster catcher. Has the orange bill, orange legs, black and white body. It wants to eat some shellfish. A sea anemone lives on a rock in a pool. It waves its tentacles to attract fish. If a fish touches the tentacles, it is stunned by a powerful poison. The anemone guides the fish to the mouth in the middle of its body. So the anemone looks like a plant. It's an animal, but once it gets mature, it doesn't move. Shiny seashells. Many seashore creatures have shells covering their bodies. Scallops swim by pushing out water as they open and close their shell. Nautiluses grab food with their long tentacles and pull it inside their shell. Abalones have strong shells that are hard for other creatures to break. There's the abalone, and there's a crab trying to get inside. Hermit crabs don't grow a hard shell. Like most crabs, they find another creature's old shell and crawl inside it. When this crab gets too big for this shell, it will leave it and find a bigger shell. It talks about plant life, different kinds of plants on the shore that have to survive salty air, salty soil, and high winds. And here's a plant called seaweed that grows under the water. There's the giant kelp like we've talked about, and other kinds of seaweed. And there are flying feeders. Many birds live at the seashore because there's lots of food for them to eat. Here are gannets flying over the water and catching fish. Oyster catchers using their long beaks to pull worms from the sand. Turnstones flicking over stones with their bills or beaks to look for food. Puffins eating sand eels. And you know about seagulls as well. Up and under. As is at the seashore, many animals spend time both on land and in the sea. These are mud skippers. They can breathe through gills when they're swimming, and then on land they can breathe through their wet skin. So that's a fish that comes out of the water on purpose and can breathe out of the water too. We know about sea otters diving down to get their food, floating on their backs to break it open with a rock, eating it up there, It has sharp teeth. Staying safe. Creatures that live near the seashore have different ways of protecting themselves. The sea urchin has spikes on its body that hurt other animals if they try to eat it. The stonefish camouflages to look like a stone. The octopus sprays the black ink to confuse its predators. The pufferfish sucks in a lot of water to blow up like this so that no one can eat it. And here are beach babies. Sea turtles live most of their lives in the water, but they come up to lay eggs, the females. And when the eggs hatch, the little turtles dig their way out and go to the sea. Making waves. Most waves are caused by the wind blowing across the surface of the water. Here's a calm day with small ripples, and here's a stormy day with big waves. Over many years, the waves carve away at the shore. These huge rocks are what's left of when the cliffs used to be further out and got washed away. Coral reefs. In some hot parts of the world, large reefs of coral grow in clear, shallow water by the seashore. Coral can grow in different shapes. Here are lionfish hunting other fish in the coral reef, and parrotfish eating the coral in the coral reefs. Cool coasts. Some seashores are very cold. The creatures that live there have special ways of coping with the freezing sea. Seals have a thick layer of fat called blubber to keep them warm. Penguins are covered in oily feathers that don't let the water in the icy water. Seashore treasures. So when you're on the beach this summer, you might see some of these. Interesting things that get washed up. This is a man-of-war. It looks like a jellyfish. Small dogfish and rays lay their eggs in an egg case. Sometimes we find those. A sand dollar is from a sea urchin. They look a bit like coins. Whelks lay lots of eggs in these egg cases, and sometimes we find these. And of course there's a pearl and an oyster. Those are very rare. I hope you find some treasures this summer on the beach. Enjoy.